Egypt, President Akufo-Addo is asking rich countries to allow heavily indebted poor African countries to swap their debt with climate interventions. The president has been addressing the world at this year's United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP27, in Egypt. Ghana is currently facing crippling economic crisis fueled by huge debt. Ghana's debt situation is proving to be a major stumbling block to getting an IMF deal at this time. President Akufo-Addo says the global financial sector or system that left countries like Ghana with little help is no longer fit for purpose. Well, we'll definitely get you what it is that the president has been saying in Egypt. But let's bring in now Awula Serwah, who's the coordinator for the Eco-Conscious Citizens, joining us via Zoom now. And Awula, I want to welcome you, first of all, to the program. The president has already started engagement, stating the side of Ghana as we go into climate negotiations this week. But the key issue he's raising about climate funding, it's a challenge for many African countries, particularly knowing that we're facing a double tragedy, recovering from COVID and then the Russian-Ukraine war. And countries will now have to find more funds to deal with issues confronting the planet. So if that's the case, he's made a good call, isn't it?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. He has made a call, but what I would also add is that we also have to make sure that we do the best we can in our present circumstances. And I can't see that that is presently the case. If we are concerned about climate change, there are measures we should be taking, which we probably are not. So yes, it's good for, I wouldn't say richer nations, because Africa is a very, very rich continent. In fact, perhaps the richest continent. But what I am going to say is that we are not doing ourselves any favors. We look at the way we are allowing Galamsey to pollute our lands, to poison our waters, and we're not doing much about it. We look at the way we're allowing structures on Ramsar sites to continue being there, sending a signal that you can break the laws with impunity. So yes, it is good to ensure that everybody plays their part, but charity does begin at home, and we need to get our act together if we are serious about climate change and the environment.
So let's start from home. What should be our priority and what should we be reflecting on as countries and governments and also other partners around the world engage in talks in Egypt?
Well, what I would say is that starting from home, God has blessed us with beautiful, fertile land. We should stop Galamsey right now. Have a pause on community mining because we are not able to enforce anything. We've seen how our waters are being polluted. So that's why I said a stop to community mining. And then we should stop encroachment on our wetlands, the Ramsar sites. There's no point going to COP27 and making pronouncements when we don't enforce conventions that we have signed. We're signatory to the Ramsar Convention, and therefore we cannot allow buildings on Ramsar sites. Then we cannot talk about regularizing unlawful acts. We cannot be declassifying parts of the forest, for example, Achimota Forest, which are the lungs of our country, and then turn around and say that, oh, we want monies to implement climate action. We have to be showing that we are actually doing something. We need to inspire confidence. And I'm not sure that our actions at present are inspiring confidence that we are concerned about the environment or climate change.
And so for those who are still in a state of disbelief, I mean, this whole conspiracy theory against climate change itself, for those who are still in that state, what would you say to someone about the telling effects of how global warming is still affecting us as a country?
Well, I mean, I think unless somebody is very, very blind, I mean, climate change is obviously a reality. We've had drought in parts of Europe. It rains when it shouldn't rain. We've had torrential rains. We've got so many things happening that tell us that there's a change in the climate. And we are saying that the change is also due to human activities. And those human activities which are contributing to the climate change, which is going against all of us, we should do something about it. And one of the things we have to do is to take care of our forests. We should take care of our forests, take care of our environment. And I'm saying that currently, we don't seem to be doing so. Our forests are being are being destroyed by mining, some of it legal mining. We gave people concessions to go into forest reserves and destroy the forest. So yes, climate change is a reality, and our activities are contributing to it. So we need to stop those activities, and then we'll be in a better position to be asking other countries to give up funds for climate change.
But many believe that obviously the reason for which the president was making that demand is flowing from our current economic crisis. Many believe that may shift our focus from some of the climate interventions that we've been making so far.
I mean, if we're in an economic situation, I mean, it's partly our own doing, wouldn't you agree? And climate change is a reality, as we've said. And what we need to do right now is understand that we're a sovereign nation. We need to enforce our own laws and regulations. So once we start doing the right thing from our end, you'll be surprised that things will begin to fall into place. We are a sovereign nation. We don't always have to go cap in hand, asking others to come and help us as if we're children. We're a sovereign nation. We've been blessed with a beautiful, rich land. We need to take care of it. We need to nurture it, and you find out that the world will follow. We need to learn from Operation Feed Yourself. We need to stop importing so much. I think a class 1 student could tell us that our economy will be in the state in which it is if we continue depending so much on imports. We should focus on what we produce and export and not so much on imports. And you realize that our economy will improve. And we have companies in Ghana who are, for example, producing fertilizer. So the Ukraine-Russia war, in a sense, has also brought out opportunities for us to depend on what we do and also send it to others. Even during the Ukraine war, Ukraine is still producing fertilizer. Ghana can produce organic fertilizer. In fact, that's so, and we need to focus on it.
And let's look at some of the campaigns you've been running as eco-conscious citizens. The campaign against a ban on noise making and tighter regulations against it. And then there's the Hydra-headed issue of dealing with plastics. So let's start with the plastics. What policy measures should we be starting off with?
Well, one thing we can do is to stop the use of single-use plastics. I mean, a lot of East Africa, whether you're talking about Tanzania, Rwanda, Kenya, I believe they have banned single-use plastics. You look at our gutters, what are they full of? They are full of lots of stuff, but a lot of it is single-use plastics. We have to remember that there was a time when we didn't use plastics and we managed very well. Thank you very much. So for starters, we can stop the importation of single-use plastics. And I have said that in other countries, the UK, for instance, they haven't banned single-use plastics. But what they have done is that when you go to supermarkets, you are charged for plastic bags, and that has had an effect on demand for plastic bags. So the manufacturers will soon realize that the UK is not the best place for single-use plastic bags. And the sad thing is that they may begin to dump it on African countries and Asia. So it's for us to get our act together.
Right. And the issue on the noise making. You're running a campaign on that as well.
We are, because it comes down to enforcement. One of our problems in this country is that we seem to be allergic to enforcement. I mean, noise making is a criminal offense. You're not supposed to make noise between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. But when there's noise making and you even go to the police, they don't even, well, let me not tar everybody with the same brush. But a lot of police stations, the police officers there don't even, noise making is a criminal offense. So they don't do much about it. And then also the bylaws of the assemblies talk about not making noise that go beyond the confines of your property. But you find churches, beer bars, bola taxis, everybody competing to make noise. And most of the time, the authorities stand idly by. So it's a lot of effort to, first of all, educate the authorities that noise making is an offense. We need to do something about it, because not only does it impact on our enjoyment of our properties when somebody else's noise is invading our property, but it's also damaging our health. In fact, we've had a doctor or doctors testify to the fact that noise making damages our health. It could even lead in extreme cases to cardiac arrest. So we need to do something about it. But primarily is to get enforcement. The laws are there, but they're of no use if we refuse to enforce them.
Right. And we're looking to the outcome of the COP27. Obviously, there's also the aspect of citizens' participation, helping governments and also agencies across the world to make the world a safer place. If there's something that citizens should know about climate change, what would that message be?
Well, the message will be that let's not engage in activities that puts unnecessary pressure on the environment. Let's go back to basics. We all say that when the last tree dies, the last man dies. We know that our trees play a cardinal role with climate change. So let's stop felling trees. Let's keep planting trees. Let's stop declassifying forests. But let's understand the importance of forests to the climate. Also, we have to take care of, realize that water can become scarce if we continue polluting it. So again, we need to let people know that we need to stop polluting our waters, especially with mining. And maybe we need to really consider if the best use of our land is mining. And then again, I talked about plastics, which are having a very negative effect. We need to have a ban on it and go to natural products. So if you're talking about climate change and the environment, we need to just go back to basics.
Awula Serwah, thank you for your time here on The Pulse. And now programs